Strong Black women die early. They're often obese. They go into debt. They have spending habits that are not healthy. They often do not take care of themselves, not just emotionally, but physically. And so I want us to resist that crookedness as we go forward. Audre Lorde actually has a wonderful phrase that she talks about: taking care of yourself is an act of resistance. And so we could probably find time. If I told you that your mother or your child needed you to do something for 30 minutes a day, we would figure it out. We'd figure it out early in the morning. We'd figure it out when we got off work. We would figure it out. And so I'm asking, the only thing I'll ask is that you take at least as good care of you as you would of them. And not in the crookedness that we're going to talk about, like, so you could take better care of them. No. No. I don't want you to take good care of yourself so that you can take better care of other people. I want you to take really good care of yourself because you should take good care of yourself. But some of the ways that we get set up with this has a huge lens in critical race theory, especially as we talk about property rights. So we're going to talk a little bit about critical race theory in the framework of whiteness, because often what we are identifying as beauty, as good hair, as intelligence, as knowledge, and who gets to be knowing and not knowing has that same lens and that same tendency to follow colonistic patterns of oppression that we then play out and live out in our lives. So I want us to take a really quick moment to just notice what messages we got. I'm going to start with the church. There are pros and cons to having aspects of spirituality. The pros, of course, is that you have a lens of faith and resistance that you will get through the troubled times. But I want us to notice the sexism in those same institutions. I want us to notice all the misogyny that is also there. I want us to know the lessons that we hear about being quiet and good and what womanhood looks like within the church walls. I want us to notice the large placements that it has on our sexuality, our virginity as our worth, as if vaginas are the only thing that we have to offer the universe. It doesn't make you lesser whole. Because the third chapter in Sister Citizen is actually on shame. I actually got to the chapter and put it down for almost 3 weeks. Because one of the questions I asked myself was, when was the first time I felt ashamed? And I couldn't remember not ever having shame. I went all the way back to childhood. Couldn't remember not being ashamed. I went to like 3, 4, see, I've had a perm since I was 2, so that hair thing, that would have been shame real early on, right? And so noticing that what she says in the book about shame isn't just that we got shamed, because everybody gets shame, and there's good shame and bad shame, but that the shame gets layered on top of each other. And so when I think about the ways in which we are disconnected from one another, often it is our shame that disconnects us. My mother used to have a saying that good girls get pregnant. It tilts that crookedness, doesn't it? I said, how old was your grandmother when she had her first child? Bet you know some good young mothers. Yeah. And so part of this unpacking is really a move towards liberation. And the liberation that we're looking for is not the love of white people. No matter how many dangerous minds, blind sides, white people are not coming to save us. They're not coming. I've checked, I've looked at the highway, I've peered down the streets of St. Louis Avenue and towns across the nation. They're not coming. The path to liberation, I think, would start if we could get this crooked room thing together. The first time I read The Crooked Room, I was actually reading it with Dr. Davis, and I hated it. I said, like, I'm in this cement crooked thing that I cannot change. He said, oh, that's funny, I made mine cardboard. Yeah, because white male privilege would say anything that was crooked I could fix. Anything that was crooked I could erect, I could tear down, I could make it something different. For me, it was concrete. And so breaking through what that crookedness looks like is our path to liberation. And so I want us to imagine a world without racism. For some of us, this is going to be very difficult. But if we don't imagine that world, we are not even trying to get there. We get mired with, I had a really hard life and then God got me through, and we are so brave and triumphant as a black women. We hold it down. We get it done by any means. I want to just live. I don't want to survive anymore. Ask for the big dream, the big order. Our fear is what has gotten us in the way so far. So let me show you what happened. We had the civil rights movement, right? And then people got killed and people got hurt. And then the elder people said, whoa, don't go. Stay home. I don't want any of those things to happen to you. And for about 50 years, we did just that. We were respectable Negroes. We stayed in our place and our women stayed in theirs. But we don't have to do that anymore because that is actually not living. So I know for a lot of people in this room, Michael Brown's death changed their life. It definitely changed mine. I remember Melissa Harris Perry's book talks about fictive kinship. So when Leslie was crying, I was right there with her. As a matter of fact, when I heard that a young person had been killed, honestly, the first thing I did was pick up the phone to call my children to see if it was one of mine. Because the crookedness of this was, as a black mother, I understood at any day, on any given moment, I could easily lose one of my children. Easily. And I had signed up for waiting for the phone call. That's what I agreed to in that crooked space. And it wasn't until they burned down the Quick Trip, and I know people are going to go to that place like, oh, that was so terrible. Please resist that. I would rather have that child back than a Quick Trip any day. And all the other children that have been taken since, any day. You could burn my house down if it meant saving one of my children's lives. I would give you the matches. And so noticing our belief that our property is more important than our children is a flaw. It is crooked. That is an image that is oh so crooked. And I remember as a Quick Trip was burning down, me looking at the TV with a tilted head, saying, you can't change this. This will never change. What are you doing? And then saying, what if we could? What if we could change this? What if I don't have to wait on the phone call? What if we could change this not just in policing, but in education? What if we could change this in healthcare, meaning that every time we went to the doctor, we didn't have to worry about them killing us. We could actually get better. What if we could change this? What if this Brown moment would be like a Brown versus Board of Education moment, and I was on the streets the very next day? There is one thing that I am very clear about, and it is that I am willing to die for my children. And so getting tear gas and getting rubber bullets shot at me and all that other stuff, if it means that I don't have to sit on the front pew ever, if it means that I don't have to worry about that phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning ever, I would do it all over again. The crookedness is the agreement that we signed up for, that it just happens. And so I'd like for us to offer a new lens, a new room, that we aren't just surviving, that we aren't living for other people, that our new space is that we get to have joy. That is our reality. That is our new big and wonderful lives. Our counterparts are having that joy. And so our path to liberation has to be a path to liberation, which means that liberation comes from within. It means that sometimes we're going to have to move past our fear, not just for ourselves, but for our children, so that we can get to where we're going. Of course, on here I have hair. It has been an interesting conversation in this crooked room. I cut all my hair off in November. Don't worry, I told the white people at work I cut it off because they're so progressive. And they were like, yeah, we are, thank you. We love it. I was like, yeah, glad you do. It's not coming back anytime soon. Right, just shine them on, shine them on. But as I cut my hair off, I had all these new hair conversations. Like, well, you can't just wear it natural. I thought the point of going natural was to be natural. Oh, no. First, you got to put oil in it. Wait, wash it, wet it. No, cold wash it. Then put some cream on it. Any cream? Yes, any cream. Don't put the curly cream on it. That'll mess up your pattern. Then put some oil on it, and then it seals it in. Oh, and if you want it to look like it's good hair, put some gel in it. And I was like, hold on. We were supposed to be doing this natural hair to be natural, but now our natural hair can't look quite natural. Do you want it to look like your hair was straightened? Get Sister Locks, that's closer. And white people like that better. I'm like, so now we're still doing this to appease white people? It is the moment to notice how crooked these spaces become, how complicated these places become. And so I know that we have been taught that making white people comfortable is part of our survival. I would offer we're just surviving. Let's work on living, y'all. Let's work on living. I've tried it a couple of times. Luckily, when all of the police were down in Ferguson, there was no one on the highway and I was speeding. I knew where everybody was going to be. I was like, you know what? I think I'll go 70. And if you've never driven your car fast, I encourage you to do so on a night when you know where all the police are. It feels quite good. There are these ways in which we get confused and comfortable with our crookedness. So I will talk about the biggest pimps on poverty since there's so many educators in the room. Ruby Payne would be my favorite pimp. Character Ed would come right behind Ruby, because hanging up some posters about respect really solves racism in the educational system. And when they were done pimping it, as long as they could pimp it, we introduced trauma-informed care, because that's the newest pimp on poverty I have seen so far. Oh, it's a pimp because in order for kids to get fair and equitable treatment in the educational system, we must evoke empathy. And the reason why we have to evoke empathy is because they were not children anyway. And deficit model thinking flies right in the face of what we know about those black children, that they were never good enough, that they were never smart enough. And so we will have some people making a whole bunch of money on the backs of poor black people again. I would offer trauma-informed care should be the trauma-informed care of racist institutions we call schools, and how schools have been traumatizing children for generations since Brown versus the Board of Education. So what does the trauma look like, not just in your curriculum, but you have culturally incompetent teachers teaching, getting paychecks every single day, never getting fired. I dare say I could not go to work, not do my job, fail at it miserably for years and years on end and still get to keep my employment. And it's not just because I'm black. It's because in some systems we believe that if people are incompetent, we get rid of them, but not in education. And so I think we should push more. I think we should push more for the moments that we notice that if we are asking, how are the children, which is a common phrase on the continent of Africa, that's how we know how well our communities are doing. If our children are not well, then neither are we. We have spent an enormous time talking about black men because sexism is real in black space. We never get to talk about sexism. We never get to talk about sexism. I have a really good friend, Rudy Nickens, who says, the slave of a slave is a woman. And so to notice the places that every time we have lost a black man, either to mass incarceration or to crime or to death or to mental illness or whatever we've lost them for, there is at least one woman attached to him. How is she? If black women cried every time sorrow happened, we would be called the walking weeping. It isn't too much, but we are going to have to figure some things out. We are going to have to work together in a collective way, maybe like we haven't done before. I will ask us, and I will ask our white sisters, how much is that check that we get paid for our silence? I get the rule has been to be quiet and good, has been the reason why we get raises and promotions and all those good things that come with our silence. But I would ask, how much is that really worth? Because our children are not doing well. They are not okay. And they're not okay anywhere. They're not okay in our independent schools. They're not okay in our public schools. They're not okay in our county schools. They're not okay in our colleges. And they are our children. And we are clear about that. She talks about love, so I'll talk briefly about that as well. We as Black women have an ability to love. We have this inordinate, it is part of our scripting, right? So we love people who don't love us. I'm going to offer we don't have to do that anymore. We could break up with that agreement. I recently was snapped in a photo going off on a white woman in Forest Park who had called me the N-word. My boss mentioned it on Monday. She said, I saw you in the Riverfront Times and the Post-Dispatch. I said, well, let me explain. She called me the N-word. So in the picture, I think it looks something like this, because I had already removed my earrings as I was walking over to her. All this standard American English fooled you, didn't it? Tricked you right on up, didn't it? I will take you out, baby girl, right? And so I was asking her, encouraging her actually, to say it again. Say it one more time. Just one more time. I bet you won't. And then I said to her, this wasn't the first time you've ever said that word. And then she was quiet. We don't have to take it anymore. Our taking it isn't getting us anywhere. We get to yell. I know that part of the agreement about being Black, and you can't be loud, you can't wear loud clothes, you can't be loud things, right? Listen to your music loud. Everybody likes music loud. I don't know what that is. I know people like classical music, they play it loud. Music loud is good, right? But noticing that we've agreed to this and that it has defined who we are, and we can say whenever we're ready, enough. Not doing that anymore. Our ability to love has been really huge. I would offer that we get to see it in return, to get loved. And for some of us, this is going to be very hard. Because the give and love part, you get scripted real early on how to give and give and give and give. And so I would like us to practice getting it back, expecting it in return. Not loving people so that they will love us back, but when they give it to us, taking it in and not rejecting it. And that will have to be a practice for some, maybe not for all. Our power and our strength is where we are. I would give a chance that we fight for our kids. We have to fight for our girls. The reason why we don't have the driving while Black conversation with our daughters is because we've stolen their voices long before that. They wouldn't dare speak up to the police. They know the rule. We don't have to have the conversation. By the time they're driving, we don't even have that conversation. Oh, don't talk back to the police? We don't have that conversation with our daughters. We tell them the lies that we tell them in those crooked spaces, like the men in their lives are going to protect them until they're on a date, right? Until they go to college, right? Or until that family member comes over and touches them in such a way that we just can't. Crooked. When we're taught to scream when things like that happen, we get to scream loudly. The adults around us will be listening for the screams and not just for the tears. So we get to figure out how to set this up differently going forward. I would offer that. I would offer that the freedom that we have, the love that we have, the visions that we have, because not only have we made things out of nothing, we actually can imagine a world without racism and all the things that we would do in it. And so I'm going to ask you not to give up on that, but to work towards it. And when you get tired, take care of yourself and then come back, because we need you, fighting always. This might be a little, unconventional, but I love the Asada chant, so I thought we would do it today. So I'm going to say it first. I know because we're in academic space, so I'm going to say it and just repeat it, like call and response. Some of y'all went to church, some of y'all didn't. So for that, yeah, I know, that's good. Church's got a whole another issue, right? Gotta have money, just kidding. Kinda just kidding. All right, so I'm gonna say the words gently first, and then I'm gonna do it like we would do it on the streets of Ferguson. Deal? All right. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains.